eons after humankind first reached the stars. The galactic accord met in a bright, echoing hall that hung in space above the silver clouds of Zeri Prime. Delegates from a dozen proud species floated, clicked, or paced beside long glass tables. They spoke in refined tones about trade routes, science treaties, and for a moment of light comedy. One small problem on the edge of their maps: a single human warship called the USV Caliban. Its outer plates were patchy iron, its engines coughed. Blue smoke. Its scanner signature wobbled like a sick bird. Because of those flaws, the Accord decided it was no threat at all. On their shared screens, they zoomed in on the ship. Rusty ribs, dents and welding scars, arrhythmic power spikes. Loud laugh rippled through the hall. "Humans send floating scrap," muttered a Kesh diplomat, her diamond eyes flashing with glee. "Typical," chirped a feather-thin Zot admiral. "They never grasp real engineering." High above, speakers boomed a short report. The Caliban had entered the contested Vorta Nebula, a zone every faction wanted, because its stormy dust lanes hid priceless dark matter crystals. The Accord expected pirates or smugglers there, never a single run-down Terran ship. While the aliens joked, Captain Elias Granger stood on his own bridge, far away, staring into that same glowing nebula. Was a tall, weather-lined man who had seen more wars than he cared to count. A wide white streak split his dark hair. One eye held a faint cybernetic glow, a souvenir from the siege of Europa. His uniform was patched at the elbows. Nothing on the Caliban looked brand new, yet his stance was steady, and his grin held a spark of mischief. Around him worked a small human crew. Lieutenant Aisha Voss, chief engineer, knelt by an exposed cable bundle, tightening bolts with careful clicks. She was young, nimble, and fearless with machines. Navigator Miguel Rojas dragged his fingers over a cracked holoconsole, plotting paths no automated pilot would dare. Communications officer Suri Nguyen tapped a rhythm on an ancient radio set, listening for distant code pulses that modern arrays missed. Every human here knew the Caliban was ugly, yet each also knew a deeper truth. Ugly could be useful. The ship's belly held layers of salvage tech. One bulkhead carried smart steel from Titan. Another hid stealth mesh torn from a Martian. Picket ship. Old Earth coil guns sat beside brand-new AI fire control chips. Half the parts were centuries apart in age, but together they formed something unique. A weapon born from human habit: never throw good junk away. As the Caliban drifted deeper into Vorta's colored mist, static crackled over the bridge speakers. A harsh alien voice filled the air. Commander Veltek of the Zarn Dominion, youngest fleet leader in his empire, announced himself. His message was short. "Human vessel, you stand in Zarn-claimed space. Power down and wait for tow. Your craft will be recycled. You'll be treated with courtesy if you comply." Even thousands of kilometers away, the contempt in his tone was clear. Captain Granger folded his arms. "He sounds polite," he said to his crew, "but only because he thinks. We're broken already," he told Ms. Nguyen to open a channel. When she nodded, he spoke calmly. "Appreciate the offer, Commander, but history says humans do better on our own. Recommend you keep your distance." The reply came in mocking laughter. Then the channel went silent. Inside the Zarn flagship, Predator's Claw, Commander Veltek paced before a hologram of the Caliban. He saw the same flaws the Accord had laughed at. His talons clicked in impatience. "Even their hull gases leak," he sneered. "One pass with plasma torpedoes, then salvage crews will gather whatever is not rust." His bridge officers nodded, though a few younger tacticians frowned at the strange pattern of the human ship's energy field. It flicked on and off, almost like blinking eyes hard for computers to track. But no one wished to argue with Veltek's confidence. Back on the Caliban, Lieutenant Voss crawled out of a vent, soot across her cheek. "Cap reactors stabilized," she reported. "Old coils are humming steady. We can hit full thrust." For 6 minutes if needed, Granger thanked her and ordered the crew to quiet stations. Lights dimmed. Non-essential systems shut down. From outside, the Caliban seemed to grow even colder and weaker yet inside. People strapped in, checked weapons and loaded code packets into stealth drones that slept under the hull plates. Miguel Rojas projected a silent map. Red dots marked the incoming Zarn ships. Sleek, silver, perfect lines, like knives. The Caliban sat alone, a dull gray speck. For hours until first contact, he said. No one panicked. They had practiced this for months. Until the ship had left. Earth without fanfare, escorted only by rumors that it was a testbed. The real mission stood written in Granger's private log. Show them what happens when you judge humanity by surface rust. Outside, the nebula's gas clouds swirled pink and purple. Electric flashes rolled along magnetic veins, painting ghostly. Shadows on the Caliban's patched hull. It was beautiful, in a grim way, and it hid the human vessel from long-range eyes. Granger allowed himself one moment to admire it, then turned to his crew. "Remember," he said, voice quiet but strong, "our grandparents fought with stone walls and iron cannons. Adapted, survived, and won. We keep that spirit. Doesn't matter if our steel is old, if our resolve is new." Swirinu and caught his gaze. "Captain, your speech generator is on mute," she teased, lightening the mood. Laughter bubbled across the bridge. Even Granger chuckled. Fear shrank when humor walked in the room. Hours slipped by. Air hummed. Dull metal ticked as temperature shifted. Then the sensors chimed. The Zarn fleet had arrived at the outer edge of Vorta. Veltek formed his ships into a crescent, planning to surround the Caliban. He broadcast again, voice dripping with sure victory. "This is your last call. Shh. Your reactor down, and prepare to be boarded for your safety." He even added a gracious pause, expecting surrender. Captain Granger squeezed the arms of his chair. "Send him our history files," he ordered. New Yen, Volume 1, Earth Wars. The condensed edition. When she hesitated, he clarified, "Only 10 seconds worth. Enough to show him every time humanity came back from defeat." She grinned and tapped the command. Across the void, Valtek's screens flashed rapid-fire images. Trenches, starfighter. Swarms. Civilians rebuilding toppled towers. Explorers planting flags on barren moons. It lasted a heartbeat, but felt longer. He blinked, unsettled, then barked to cut the feed. "Cheap propaganda," he snarled, yet a seed of doubt burrowed into his mind. On the Caliban, Granger leaned forward, tone turning steel. All hands condition amber, drones to launch tubes, coil guns warm. Old coils thrummed. Hidden panels slid open, revealing drone racks that had looked like broken plating moments earlier. Lights pulsed faint green. Somewhere in the engine room, Voss patted the bulkhead. "Hold together, girl," she whispered to the ship. The Zarn. Crescent closed. Distance, 50,000 kilometers. Veltek ordered the first warning shot, a bright lance of ion fire slicing harmlessly past the Caliban's nose. He expected the human captain to flinch. Granger did not. The human stayed silent. The ship drifted like lifeless debris. Veltek prepared the final torpedo spread when, without warning, the Caliban's silent hull lit with dozens of weak sparks. Tiny shape-strones sprayed outward, then vanished from sensors. Power levels on the junk ship stayed low, almost zero. To Veltek, it still looked broken. He grinned, claws tapping. Destroy them. But the moment his fleet's weapons began to charge, every targeting screen flickered. A low hum of interference crawled through wiring. Something unseen jammed systems, turned perfect Zarn code into static. Officers shouted. Veltek's smile cracked on the Caliban's bridge. Granger watched new icons bloom across his screen. Enemy sensors blinded. Comms disrupted. Formation wobbling. He allowed himself a small, satisfied nod. "All right, crew," he said softly. "Phase 1, successful. Let's show them why humans never waste good junk." Somewhere beyond the nebula's veil, the Galactic Accord's long-range scopes caught odd flashes of light. Delegates paused their laughter. Questions rose. Maybe the old human ship held more than rust. Inside the rust bucket, every crew member breathed as one. Battle had not yet begun, but destiny was already shifting. The Caliban. The galaxy's joke was about to rewrite its punchline, and the aliens would not laugh for long. The Vorta Nebula glowed with strange colors as the battle drew closer. Purple lightning danced in the distance. Gas clouds swirled like fog on a haunted battlefield. At the center of it all floated the USV Caliban, dented, silent, and still. From far away, Commander Veltek watched with confidence. His Zarn fleet, made of sleek warships with smooth silver hulls and shining plasma cannons, was in perfect formation. 48 ships, fast, modern, and deadly, surrounded the lone human vessel. To Veltek, this was not a fight. It was cleanup. He stood tall on the bridge of his flagship Predator's Claw, his dark eyes locked on the hologram of the Caliban. His second officer spoke. "Sir, sensors show strange energy spikes from the human ship. Very weak. Possibly old radiation leaks." Veltek smirked. "They're trying to look broken." Pathetic. He raised a clawed finger and pointed at the screen. "Fire one torpedo." A warning shot. It's close enough to make them panic. On his order, a bright green light flashed across space. The torpedo sped past the Caliban's nose, close enough to shake the air around it, but the human ship did not move. No shields, no weapons activated, no response at all. It looked dead. Veltek narrowed his eyes. Strange. Even cowards. "Try to run." Back aboard the Caliban, the crew remained calm. No one spoke for a few seconds. Then Captain Granger gave a short laugh. "He thinks we're scared." Lieutenant Aisha Voss grinned. "Should I make the engines accidentally?" "Spark again." "Not yet," Granger replied. "Let him get close first." In the shadows of the engine room, Voss made small adjustments. She tapped a console marked with warning signs in Old Earth languages. The ship shivered slightly, as if it was waking. Up from a long sleep, Miguel Rojas, the navigator, stared at his console. "Drones are all in place. We're using the nebula's magnetic field to hide. We're invisible on their sensors." Granger nodded. "Good, hold them until I give the word." Meanwhile, in the Zarn fleet, some younger officers began to worry. "On one ship," a pilot asked. "Why is the human ship not responding at all? No defense? No distress signal?" His commander replied sharply, "Because it's junk. Stop wasting time with guesses." Veltek heard similar questions, but he ignored them. In his mind, humans were weak, slow, unworthy of fear. They used old machines, crude weapons, and emotions in battle, all signs of an inferior species. He opened a fleet-wide channel and spoke in a loud, proud voice. "Prepare to board the human vessel. Keep fire low. We will take it apart piece by piece and bring it back as a prize." Back on the Caliban, Granger listened to Veltek's message. He turned to his crew. "He wants to board us," he said. "He really doesn't know what's waiting inside." The bridge lights dimmed. Power shifted through hidden cables. The ship's AI, an old system named Argus, came online. "Argus online," a robotic voice said. "Stealth mode complete. Enemy systems targeted. Permission to disrupt." Granger gave a short nod. "Do it." At once, the Caliban's hidden drones came alive. They were small, each the size of a backpack, but fast, silent, and dangerous. Made from old Terran stealth tech and reprogrammed scout bots, they carried EMP charges and hacking tools. From the ship's hull, dozens of these drones shot out like sparks. They scattered across space, using the Vorta Nebula's magnetic energy to mask their movement, then silence. On the Predator's Claw, Veltek was about to order boarding pods to launch when the first warning signs appeared. One ship's lights blinked off for 3 seconds, then came back. Another ship lost its internal gravity for a moment. Small things. Glitches, maybe? Then worse began. A destroyer on the left flank spun out of formation. Its plasma cannons fired by accident, not at the humans, but at its own allies. Another. Ship's shields collapsed suddenly. Power systems went haywire. Screens filled with static. "System failure," a Zarn technician shouted. "Something's jamming us." "What do you mean?" Veltek growled. "Unknown source. Our fire control is blind." A burst of code appeared on every Zarn ship's screen. Strange symbols, numbers, and music. Human music. A soft low. Earth melody, the kind played in old war documentaries.
Hello, drums?
Faint echoes of voices singing in languages the Zarn couldn't translate. "What is this noise?" Beltek shouted. The Caliban, still floating like a ghost ship, pulsed with low energy. Not much. Just enough to show it was alive. Granger's voice rang out on open coms. "That was your warning shot. Now here's ours." Suddenly, 3 of the Caliban's drones crashed into Kizarn ships. They didn't explode, they hacked. They dove into engine rooms, shield nodes, and command links. Sparks flew. Consoles burst. More ships spun, lost. Crashing into each other as alarms screamed, Veltek watched in horror as his perfect formation became a storm of chaos. Ships collided. Lasers missed. His entire fleet was now fighting itself, confused, blind, and leaderless. "Pull back," he shouted. "All ships retreat." But it was too late. The Caliban, without firing a single main weapon, had broken the Zarn line. Its simple-looking drones, its ancient tech, and its ugly hull had hidden weapons too strange for alien logic. On the bridge, Captain Granger stood straight, hands behind his back. His crew worked quickly and quietly. "Status?" he asked. 13 Zarn ships disabled, Nguyen reported. 6 more heavily damaged. No losses on our side. Granger gave a small nod. "Good, we've made our point." The Caliban turned slowly, disappearing into the nebula's dark clouds once again. No trace remained, just dead silence and broken Zarn ships floating in the storm. In the days that followed, Veltek returned to his empire in shame. The Galactic Accord received his report and didn't laugh this time, because now the galaxy knew the human junk ship wasn't junk, it was a trap. And the next time it appeared, no one would take it lightly. The story of the USV Caliban spread fast across the stars. In just a few days, rumors moved through every system, station, and starport in the Galactic Accord. People whispered about a human ship made of junk that defeated an entire Zarn fleet without firing its main guns. Some said it used ghost tech. Others believed it was controlled by an old war AI. A few even joked that it was alive. But one thing was clear. The galaxy was no longer laughing at the Caliban. Inside the halls of the Zarn Dominion, Commander Veltek stood before his superiors. His head was low. Around him, alien nobles in long dark robes watched with cold eyes. "You lost to a single Terran ship," one elder hissed. "Not even a fleet. Not even a real war." Veltek clenched his fists. It was not a normal ship. It was something else. Something wrong. We must understand it. Study it, then destroy it. The elders whispered among themselves. Finally one spoke. "Then go. Send a shadow team. Board the ship. Learn its secrets, but no more failures, Veltek." 1 week later. Hidden inside a stolen cargo pod, a small team of elite Zarn agents floated through the Vorta Nebula. The pod looked like scrap. Its walls were covered in rust paint, and its signal was silent. But inside, 5 trained infiltrators waited, watching. "There it is," said the lead agent Zirkle, pointing at the screen. In the distance, the Caliban drifted slowly. Its hull looked damaged, even worse than before. Bits of metal floated nearby. Lights were dim. It looked helpless. "Perfect," Zirkle grinned. "They're still licking their wounds." "Right. We enter silently, stay in the shadows, and take what we need." The pod attached to the Caliban's lower hull using hidden magnets. A small tunnel extended. Cutting laser made a hole, no alarms triggered. It crawled in like spiders. Inside, the air was cold and dry. Metal creaked. Pipes hissed gently. It looked like a scrapyard. Old parts everywhere. Hanging wires, blinking lights, thick dust. "This place is a mess," whispered one agent. "Exactly," Zirkle said. "That's how they hide the truth." They moved through tight halls and dark stairways, scanning everything. Most of the systems were turned off. But there were strange things too, markings in different human languages. Old Earth signs like danger, nuclear, and do not enter. One door was sealed with heavy locks. Another pulsed with red light. One room had hundreds of cables running through it like a nest. "This ship is not designed," said one agent softly. It's grown. Meanwhile, deep in the Caliban's command center, the AI Argus quietly activated its silent defense protocol. "Unauthorized entry detected," it said, initiating observation mode. In a small control room near the ship's center, Lieutenant Aisha Voss watched a screen showing the invaders. Her fingers moved fast, typing commands. She opened a private channel. "Captain Granger, we have guests." Captain Granger was in the observation dome, sipping recycled tea and staring at the nebula stars. "How many?" "5, Zarn," moving carefully. Granger didn't look surprised. "Let them explore. Let them think we don't see. Record everything. When they reach the heart, we close the trap." Voss smiled. "Yes, sir." The Zarn team reached a large chamber near the center of the ship. It was massive, like a hangar, but packed with old machines stacked like towers. Drone parts. Nuclear fuel cells. Coils. Crates labeled Terran Arm, "Why do not use Zirkle?" Scanner beeped. "This is it. It's the source of the signal jamming. It's all here." They moved inside. One agent touched a crate. It hissed open. Suddenly, the lights turned red. A voice echoed across the walls. "Welcome to the monster." Doors slammed shut. Walls shifted. What looked like a pile of junk stood up. Not junk, but a large walking machine made from tank armor and old warbots. Its single glowing eye stared at them. "Run," Zirkle shouted. But it was too late. The floor shocked them. Gravity flipped. Noise blared, not loud but sharp and painful. Their weapons stopped working. The air grew hot. Voss watched it all from the control room. Releasing internal defenses. Activating Maze program. "Have fun, lizards." She pressed a button. Doors opened, but now the hallways had changed. Paths twisted. Stairs led nowhere. Pipes hissed steam. One by one, the Zarn agents were trapped, confused, separated. Zirkle found himself in a round chamber. Alone. No way back. The walls lit up, showing human history. Images of burning cities, space battles, and old war heroes flashed by. Then, a soft voice spoke. "You came to steal, but you forgot to learn." Captain Granger stepped out from the shadows. "This ship isn't perfect," he said. "It's not pretty. But every piece has purpose. Every burn mark tells a story. This is not a weapon. This is our memory." Zirkle raised his claws. "You can't stop the Dominion." Granger walked closer. "We already did, and if we have to, we'll do it again." Zirkle lunged, but the floor dropped. He fell into a containment cell safe, live but trapped. Granger looked up at the camera. "Voss, how many did we catch?" "All 5, she said. One with a broken leg. No deaths." Granger nodded. "Send a message to the Zarn. Tell them we have their spies. Offer to return them." Later that day, a message was sent to the Galactic Accord. A simple note from Earth Command. "The Caliban is fully operational. Please reconsider your jokes." Now, across the galaxy, the Caliban was no longer a mystery. It was a monster, born of human chaos, built from old parts, and guided by minds that never stopped adapting. And it was awake. Commander Veltek sat alone in a dark room, far away from the Vorta Nebula. Around him, glowing screens showed reports, videos, and images from the failed mission. One screen showed the USV Caliban drifting in space. Another showed the captured Zarn spies, alive but clearly defeated. Veltek's pride was gone. Shame burned inside him like fire. He had thought the human ship was trash. He had thought it would be an easy win. Now 2 of his fleets had failed. His own agents had been caught inside the ship, and worst of all, he didn't understand how. He stared at a simple message Earth had sent after the battle. "The Caliban is fully operational. Study history before your next mistake," Veltek growled. History? What history? For the first time in years, Veltek entered the Dominion's great archives. Here, alien scholars stored ancient battle records, war logs, and enemy research. The hall was huge, filled with floating books, glowing tablets, and digital projectors. Veltek approached the central terminal. "Show me Terran war records," he commanded. The system beeped. A message appeared. Warning: human history contains violent, chaotic, and unpredictable patterns. Proceed? He pressed yes. The archive lit up. Images and videos played in front of him. At first, he saw primitive humans fighting with swords, sticks, and arrows. They wore no armor. They fought in forests, deserts, cities. And they never gave up. Then came tanks, planes, and bombs. Veltec watched as Earth burned in world wars. Nations rose and fell. Leaders came and went. Technology improved fast. Faster than any other species he had studied, he saw humans fight on the moon, then on Mars, then on Europa. He watched the Terran Civil War, a brutal, confusing time where humans even fought against their own AI. But somehow they survived. They adapted. The system's voice explained, humans evolve under pressure. They do not fear loss. They learn from pain. Veltec leaned forward. Why is their technology so strange? The screen changed now. It showed the Caliban's class. Disruption class warship. The text explained. The Caliban was not built in a shipyard. It was assembled. Each part comes from a different era of war. Terrans believe nothing is useless. Even broken things can win a battle. The more Veltec read, the more uneasy he felt. Meanwhile, far from the archives, Captain Granger sat in his private quarters on the Caliban. He watched a video feed from Earth, a classroom where children learned about the galaxy. A teacher pointed to a chart showing every species in the Accord. Humans were at the bottom. Granger smiled. Let them think we're small, he said quietly. It's easier that way. Lieutenant HFY knocked and entered. Another message. From the Accord. They're asking if we're willing to explain how we disabled Veltec's fleet. Granger raised an eyebrow. They want us to teach them? Not directly. They're offering to share knowledge in return for data about the Caliban. Granger shook his head. They didn't listen when we spoke. It's only when we fought. Back at the archives, Veltec now watched the Battle of Titan, one of Earth's most famous off-world victories. The humans had used old mining ships, hacked AI, and even thrown rocks into enemy engines. It made no sense. Yet it had worked. His assistant, a younger officer named Kelron, arrived with new data. Sir, he said, we just learned the Caliban is only one of many. Veltec turned sharply. What do you mean? There are more ships, same style, different names, all Terran-made. The Caliban was just the test. Veltec's claws tapped the table slowly. Then this is only the beginning. Back on? The Caliban communications officer Nu Yen brought a report to Granger. Sir, we intercepted Zarn messages. Veltec is studying our history. Deeply, Granger smiled. Good. Let him. Nu Yen tilted her head. Aren't you worried? They learn our tactics, they might find a weakness. Granger stood up. It's the thing, Suri. Our tactics change every time. Humans don't follow rules. We break them. He walked to the bridge and looked out into the nebula. The stars blinked like silent eyes. Granger spoke to his crew. The Accord thought we were fools. The Dominion thought we were weak. They only saw rust and junk. But now, they've seen something more. He paused. They've seen who we really are. It's on a moon near the Accord's central planet. A group of alien leaders gathered in secret. They watched the Caliban's footage. They saw drones strike with precision. They saw enemies lose control. One elder said, this changes everything. Another added, we must decide, are the humans allies or a threat? No one answered. In the shadows of a dark hangar on Earth, technicians worked on a new ship, larger than the Caliban, sleeker, but still made from mixed parts. A label was painted on the side, USV Erebus, Disruption Class Mark II, one of the engineers whispered. They called the Caliban junk. What will they call this one? Back. In the Dominion, Veltec closed the Terran history files. His hands were shaking. They fight with scraps, he muttered. But they never stop. They always adapt. He turned to his officers. prepare a new strategy. One that breaks them before they break us. But deep down, he was no longer sure it was possible, because now he finally understood. Humans don't win with better weapons. They win because they never stop fighting. The USV Caliban moved slowly through deep space. Behind it, the glowing clouds of the Vorta Nebula faded away. Ahead, empty blackness stretched for light years. It was quiet. It's too quiet. But Captain Elias Granger knew this silence would not last. He stood on the bridge, with his arms crossed, eyes on the radar. The enemy was coming. The Dominion would not stop after one loss. They would return angry, stronger, and in greater numbers. Lieutenant Aisha Voss worked at the engineering panel. Her hands were fast, her mind focused. "All systems are ready," she said. "Drones reloaded. Trap zones set. The Caliban is armed like a fortress." Granger nodded. "Good, because this time they'll throw everything they have at us." The distant Dominion Sector Commander Veltek stood before a wall-sized display. 48 new ships blinked on the screen, all ready for battle. These were not scouts or patrol ships. These were war cruisers, dreadnoughts, and elite fighters. Best the Zarn had. "This is no longer a joke," Veltek said to his officers. "This is not about honor. This is not about pride. It is about survival." He looked each officer in the eye. The Caliban is not just a ship, it's a message. If humans can win with junk, they can win with anything. We must destroy that message. On the Caliban, Miguel Rojas watched, blinking. Lights on his console. Enemy fleet entering scanner range. 40+ ships. Moving fast. Direct course to us. Granger smiled slightly. Right on time, he pressed a button and spoke into the ship-wide comms. "Crew of the Caliban, this is your captain. You already know what's coming? They think we're weak. They think we're outdated. Gosh, but this ship and everyone on it has something no war machine can copy." He paused. "We think like humans." Across the ship, crew members tightened their belts, checked their gear, and smiled with pride. The Zarn fleet entered a dead zone of space, a long stretch with no signals, no stations, and no known planets. A perfect place for a quick victory, Veltek thought. "Bring the fleet in close," he ordered. No gaps, no risks. His ships formed a wide circle around the Caliban. From every direction, they aimed weapons. Cannons charged. Shields up. Engines at full power. Veltek opened. A broadcast? "Human vessel, this is your end. No tricks. No hiding. We learned your history. We know your style. You will not escape." On the Caliban's bridge, Granger watched quietly. Then he said, "Begin." In an instant, the Caliban transformed. What looked like broken panels slid. Open hidden missile launchers popped out. Long-range turrets rose from the hull. Drones shot into space, each following a programmed path. But the most important thing wasn't weapons. It was the trap vel. Tech watched in confusion as space around the Caliban changed. Suddenly, strange energy fields formed. Static storms. Gravitational ripples. One by one, Dominion ships began to feel it. Slow engines, glitched systems, power drops. What's happening? One officer shouted. Veltek realized too late the entire battlefield had been prepared. The Caliban had laid hundreds of invisible mines, signal jammers, and magnetic field traps days before. "We walked right into it," he whispered. Chaos began. One Dominion cruiser turned left and flew into a gravitational pull it couldn't escape. Its engines failed, crashed into another ship. Fireballs bloomed in space. Another ship tried to fire, but its weapons jammed. Then one of the Caliban's drones attached to its hull and exploded in a silent EMP burst. Everywhere, Zarn ships lost control. Communication failed, but the Caliban kept moving, weaving through the storm, dodging lasers and striking from the shadows. Lieutenant Voss called out, "Phase 2 complete. 15 enemy ships disabled. We haven't taken a hit." "Phase 3, Granger said, inside the Caliban's command room. Communications Officer Nguyen activated a powerful signal beacon. It sent a message not just to the Zarn, but to the whole Galactic Accord. The message said, "This is what Happens when you underestimate humanity. It was followed by footage of the battle, clean, clear, and undeniable. One old Terran ship, outnumbered and outgunned, defeating a full alien fleet with nothing but brains, teamwork, and courage. Back in the Dominion flagship, Beltek watched his fleet fall apart. Ship after ship went dark. Wreckage floated in. Zero gravity. He turned to his last officers. Retreat. Now. But sir, now. His flagship turned and fled, followed by a few survivors. The rest of the fleet was lost. As the battle ended, the Caliban powered down its weapons. The nebula around it was quiet again. Wreckage floated like broken toys. Granger exhaled. Is it over? Rojas replied. They're running, sir. Fast. They won't be back soon. Voss added, We didn't even use half our traps. Nguyen smiled. They accord. They saw everything. Granger leaned back in his chair. Good. Let them think. Let them talk. He looked at the stars outside the window. Next time. Someone calls us junk, he said. They'll remember today. Far away, in a secret lab on Earth, new ships were being built. Smarter, stronger, faster. But still carrying the spirit of the Caliban. Because now the galaxy knew, humans didn't. Need perfect ships. They just needed one chance. And when that chance came, they made sure no one forgot. The battlefield was silent now. Wreckage from the destroyed Zarn fleet floated in space like metal bones. Some ships still burned slowly. Others were cold and lifeless. The great battle was over. At the center of it all was one ship. Old, dented, and strange, the USVCAL. It had survived again. Outnumbered, surrounded, outgunned, still standing inside. Captain Elias Granger stood at the main screen, hands behind his back. His eyes looked calm, but his mind was sharp. Round him, the bridge crew worked silently. They were tired but proud. Lieutenant Aisha Voss reported from the engineering station. All systems stable, Captain. Minor damage only. Drones returning. Shields holding at 63%. Granger nodded. Good work, everyone. We've shown them what we're made of. Miguel Rojas smiled. They won't call us junk again. Crew laughed softly, but they all knew it wasn't about respect or fear. It was about the message. The Caliban had changed everything, far away on Earth. Leaders from the Terran Defense Council watched the final battle footage. Generals, scientists, and engineers sat in silence as they saw the Xarn fleet fall apart and flee. One general stood up. We've proved we belong in this galaxy. Another said, no. We've proved we're dangerous. Now they'll watch us, fear us. The head of the council, an old woman named Adira Kale, turned to her advisors. It's time, she said. The Caliban was our test. Now we build the future. In the Galactic Accords meeting chamber, a storm of voices echoed through the high dome. Alien leaders argued, shouted, and pointed at holograms of the Caliban. They fooled us. They used old tech like a trap. No one should have this kind of power. But one voice was calm. The emissary of the Serati Alliance raised a single hand. We judged the humans by how they looked, not by what they were. This was our mistake. Silence followed. Then another voice added, they beat the Xer, not with size, but with strategy. They planned the whole battlefield. They knew how we'd move. The Accord was divided. Some feared Earth. Others wanted to ally with it. But all agreed on one thing. The humans could no longer be ignored. Back on the Caliban, the crew cleaned. The ship repaired small systems and shared food in the mess hall. They were more than a crew now. They were a family. Voss sat across from Nguyen, sipping a warm cup of synth coffee. We made history, she said. Nguyen nodded. And we didn't even have to fire our big guns. Granger walked in and joined them. That's the beauty of human design, he said. We make things look broken, then surprise you. He raised his cup. To the Caliban. They raised theirs too. To the Caliban. In a hidden Terran shipyard, deep under the surface of the moon, a new warship was being built. It was larger than the Caliban, but it followed the same design style, mixed parts. stealth features, strange patterns that made it hard to scan. Its name was already painted in bold white letters. USV, Erebus Disruption Class Mark IIA, an engineer, ran his hand across the hull. If they were scared of the first one, he whispered, they're not ready for this. More ships were planned. A whole fleet, small in number but deadly. Each ship would carry the same spirit as the Caliban, clever, creative, unpredictable, in the Dominion. Commander Veltek sat in silence. His rank had been lowered. His fleet was gone. But he was still alive. He watched the battle footage again and again. He whispered to himself, we never saw the trap. We never understood them. Fought with rules. They fought with imagination. His claws tapped the table slowly. We must learn to think like them, or we will lose again.
Ow.
News about the Caliban spread across the stars. On merchant ships, in soldier camps, in academies, everywhere young officers read about its victory. Scientists studied its strange energy use. Pilots copied its battle moves, and among normal people, civilians, workers, farmers, the Caliban became a symbol of human strength. Children built toy versions. Artists painted it on spaceport walls. Songs were written about its fight. One song, played in dozens of languages, had a simple chorus. They called it junk, but it was our sword. It's made from dust, feared by the Horde. 1 month later, the Caliban returned to Earth orbit. As it passed through the atmosphere, hundreds of small ships flew beside it. Fireworks lit the sky. People cheered across the planet, not because the ship was beautiful, not because it was fast, but because it showed the galaxy who humans truly were. In a live broadcast, Captain Granger gave a short speech. He stood in his patched uniform in front of his battered ship. We didn't win because we had the best tools, he said. We won because we used what we had in the best way. He looked at the camera. Never forget, humans are builders, survivors, fighters. If we fall, we rise again. They call us junk, we'll show them what junk can do. Somewhere beyond. The stars, alien fleets reformed. Old enemies watched Earth with new eyes, and in a quiet hangar on Mars. A message was written on the wall next to the next disruption-class ship. You only get to underestimate humans once.